Hello, my name is Tyler Dunaway, and my topic of choosing today for this project was Unix safety, security, and vulnerabilities. I chose this topic because while we went through this class, we talked about securing access to files within a system, but we never really went over and went into much detail about how systems protect themselves from outsiders. This made me want to go into more detail about this to see what else Linux systems do to protect themselves from the online world. Real-world companies use these things in their day-to-day. Just one company that comes to mind right off the bat would be Microsoft. Alright, so let's get into this. So while all Linux systems, they use the internet and online capabilities and functions, when doing this, it opens endless possibilities on types of attacks and people that can attack, and where the attacks can come from. Online attacks for a Linux system can come from multiple types of users, executionable files, and many more. Attacks also come from within by granting the wrong access to administration codes. Admin codes or root user access on a Linux system, if put into the wrong hands, could bring down an entire company or organization overnight due to the power that they have. Administrators can do anything they please and even close access to its own users on certain types of files. By doing this, it could limit the ability for the system to function as it should. And for lastly, since Linux systems are open source code, vulnerabilities for a Linux system can even be the open source code part of it. If an admin or user is not paying attention and recognizing where the code came from, it could cause damage to a system and even the device that it is being used on. An open source code is one of the hardest types of systems to protect nowadays, especially because, it could come from anywhere, any shape, any form, any type of file or anything. So while doing that, I decided let's go into the security part of it. So for this project, since in the class we used Red Hat mainly, I decided to try to use a different operating system in the project, such as Ubuntu, that Microsoft and other companies use from their day-to-day. For Ubuntu, I found a firewall protection command that installs a firewall on any Ubuntu operating system that did not already have one. Mine at this stage did not have one. So I installed a command called GUFW, which is a graphical user interface for managing UFW. And I'll go more into that. So this is an easy initiative way to managing your Ubuntu firewall. It supports common tasks such as allowing or blocking pre-configured common P2P or individual ports. It uses IP tables, which is a very powerful tool by itself, but its syntax can get awkward at times and hard to figure out. So Ubuntu developers decided to make UFW. It is a fully customizable firewall system, which in return the UFW part is Ubuntu Firewall. That's what that stands for. Then after going through the firewall information, I also discovered that it can stop viruses from infecting a system, but that sparked my interest in seeing if Linux systems have an antivirus protection, which of course, as most other systems do, everything should have an antivirus, right? So Linux was no different. So sure enough, that Ubuntu has one. It is called ClamTK, which is just one of the many antivirus systems that I found. ClamTK is a graphical user interface, GUI, for the company Clam Antivirus. ClamTK is a front-ended antivirus software and was designed to be a lightweight, easy-to-use, on-demand GUI virus scanner. It is a fully personable system that allows user to go into detail about how they want their systems to react to certain instances. It can whitelist file types, IP addresses, users, and many more things to prevent further information coming from the infected source. It can scan files and directories to find potential threats that have already made it into our system. You can also use it to schedule daily, hourly, or weekly scans of an entire system to ensure that its protection. Now earlier, remember how we mentioned admins and their vulnerabilities? Well, they can also still be secure. Not not to contradict, but they can also be secure. So admins can prevent all kinds of attacks and review any potential incoming information or files to make sure that they don't contain information that they don't want to get out. Admins can also give other users higher and lower access to help or prevent issues occurring later in the system. In Linux, network security can be a main issue, but ways to go about keeping it secure are making sure it is locked network In Linux, network security can be a main issue, but ways to go about keeping it secure are making sure it is a locked network that all your internal users can see and use to prevent it from being seen by the outside users. Alright. And then lastly, so we go into safety. So after going from vulnerabilities, we've talked about security, and now let's talk about like safety practices. So in safety, users are the main element of a Linux system, and after researching how to keep a system safe and secure, all users need encrypted passwords and limited access to back-end things. If users are managed correctly and know their tasks, Linux systems can be effective and efficient. Also, to go with users, making sure systems keep track of IP addresses that can be a difference maker, since code and other files can come from any one IP addresses, and you can see which ones are reliable versus those that are not. And then these are the sources that I have used for my project and for this report. So this would be my conclusion, that these are my sources that I used for the information that I've provided. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation. And I hope each and every one of you have a great day. Thank you so much.